Hi and welcome. I'm Midnight Truth, and it's so nice to have you here tonight, wherever you are right now. Whether you're in bed, lie on the couch, or just looking for a quiet moment, I want you to know this time is for you. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, feel the weight of the day start to fade. Let your mind settle, let your body relax, and let yourself simply be. There's no rush, no pressure, just this calm, quiet moment. If you like, you can close your eyes and imagine yourself in a peaceful place. Maybe it's a cozy room with soft, warm lighting. Or maybe it's under a starry sky, with a gentle breeze brushing against you. Wherever you feel safe and calm, let yourself drift there. I know many of you use these stories to fall asleep. So before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time is it there? Tonight's story is gentle and soothing, perfect to carry you into a deep, restful sleep. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin. Below is the first chapter of your horror story, titled The House That Changes at Night. It's written in a first-person narrative, following your guidelines for suspense, atmosphere, and a relatable protagonist. Each chapter will be roughly 3,000 characters, not words, as that would exceed the response limit per chapter, aiming to build tension gradually. I'll provide chapter 1 here, and you can request subsequent chapters as needed. Hashtag chapter 1. The move. I pulled up the house just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple. The moving truck rumbled behind me, its engine coughing like it was as tired as I was. My new place loomed ahead, an old, two-story relic with peeling gray paint and windows that stare like empty eyes. It wasn't much, but it was mine. After the divorce, I needed a fresh start, and this creaky old rental in a nowhere town called Millhaven was the best I could afford. The realtor had called it charming over the phone, but charming didn't cover the sagging porch steps or the way the front door groaned when I pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled like damp wood and something faintly sour, like old fruit left to rot. The floorboards creaked under my sneakers as I hauled in the first box. Dishes, mostly, clinking together in a way that made the silence feel heavier. I'd been at my new job for 2 weeks. Data entry at a warehouse 10 miles out of town. It was mind-numbing, but it paid the bills. The house was the next step in putting my life back together. I set the box on the kitchen counter, a slab of scratched linoleum, and flicked on the light. The bulb buzzed faintly, casting a yellow glow that didn't quite reach the corners. Home sweet home, I muttered, trying to sound upbeat. It didn't work. The movers, a pair of gruff guys who smelled like cigarettes, dropped off the rest of my stuff in under an hour. Bed, couch, a few boxes of clothes and books. They didn't say much, just nodded and left me with a clipboard to sign. As their truck growled away, the quiet settled in. Too quiet. I shook it off and started unpacking, figuring routine would make the place feel less strange. That first night, I noticed quirks. The stairs creaked like someone was following me up, each step a sharp little whine. The bedroom smelled faintly of mildew, even though the windows were cracked open. And every so often, I'd hear a thud, like something heavy shifting upstairs. Old houses settle, I told myself. It's normal. The next morning, I met Mrs. Hargrove. She lived next door in a tidy little bungalow with lace curtains. I was hauling trash bags to the curb when she shuffled over, her cane tapping the pavement. She was small, hunched, with eyes that seemed too sharp for her wrinkled face. "You're the new tenant," she said, not asking. "Yeah, just moved in yesterday." I forced a smile. "I'm Claire." She didn't smile back. "That house is history, Claire. Folks don't stay long." I paused, trash bag dangling from my hand. "What kind of history?" She squinted at the house, then at me. Last one ran out screaming one night. Middle of winter. No coat, babbling about footsteps that wouldn't stop. Before that, a young couple said they heard voices. Never came back for their things. I laughed, but it came out thin. Sounds like ghost stories. Probably just the wind. Maybe, she shrugged, turning away. But that house has got a way of talking back. I watched her hobble off, her words sticking like damp clothes. Footsteps? Voices? It was nonsense. I'd lived in creaky places before. Still, as I headed back inside, I couldn't shake the chill crawling up my spine. That night, I cooked spaghetti on the ancient stove, the burner hissing like it resented being used. The kitchen felt too big for one person, the shadows stretching longer as the light faded. I ate on the couch, scrolling my phone, trying to ignore how every creak and groan sounded louder in the dark. Around midnight, I climbed into bed. The mattress was lumpy, but exhaustion hit fast. I was drifting off when it started, a slow, heavy thud from upstairs. My eyes snapped open. Thud, thud, like boots pacing the attic. I held my breath. Waiting, it stopped after a minute, leaving only the hum of crickets outside. Old house. I whispered, pulling the blanket tighter, just settling. But as I closed my eyes, I swore I heard something else, a faint, raspy breath right above me. The next morning, I woke up with a crick in my neck and a vague memory of that thudding sound. Sunlight streamed to the bedroom window, weak and watery, but enough to make the night feel like a bad dream. I rolled out of bed, my bare feet hitting the cold floorboards, and shuffled downstairs. The house smelled like dust and something faintly metallic, like old pipes. I chalked it up to the plumbing and started the coffee maker, its gurgle cutting through the stillness. Work was the same grind, rows of numbers on a screen, the hum of fluorescent lights, and co-workers who barely nodded hello. I didn't mind. It gave me something to focus on besides the divorce papers still sitting in a box somewhere. By the time I got home, the sky was a dull gray, and the house looked even older in the fading light, its sagging roofline like a tired frown. I spent the evening unpacking books, stacking them on a wobbly shelf I'd found in the basement. The basement itself was a no-go for now, dark, damp, with a single bulb flickering like it was on its last legs. I'd tackle it later. Maybe. For now. I stuck to the main floor, trying to make the place feel like mine. That night, the noises came back. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it, a slow, deliberate creak from the hallway, like someone stepping carefully. I froze, toothbrush in hand, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The sound stopped. I rinsed my mouth, spat, and told myself it was a house settling again, old with shifts. That's all. But as I climbed into bed, the air felt different, thicker, colder. I pulled the blanket up to my chin, listening. There was again thud, 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 heavy, like boots on hardwood. Coming from the attic, my heart kicked up, but I stayed still, counting the steps. 1, 2, 3. Silence. I waited, ears straining, but nothing else came. Pipes, I muttered, or squirrels. Something normal. Sleep didn't come easy. I kept picturing Mrs. Hargrove's sharp eyes, her voice rattling around in my head. Footsteps that wouldn't stop. I shoved it down. She was old, probably bored, spinning tales to spook the new girl. I wasn't going to let it get to me. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Wake up, coffee, work, home, dinner, bed. The house's quirks became background noise. The creaking stairs, the occasional thud, the way the bedroom got icy at night even with the heat on. I started leaving the TV on low, some mindless sitcom chatter to drown it out. It helped, mostly. Friday night, I met another neighbor. I was dragging the trash bins back from the curb when a guy waved from across the street. He was tall, lanky, with a scruffy beard and a flannel shirt that looked 2 sizes too big. "Hey, you're in the old Miller place, right?" he called, crossing over. "Yeah, I'm Claire." I wiped my hands on my jeans, offering a half smile. "Pete." He nodded toward the house. "How's it treating you?" "Fine so far. Creaky, but what old house is it?" He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That one's got a reputation. Ever hear about the guy who lived there before the last tenant?" I shook my head, my stomach tightening. "No. What about him?" "Rumor is he was into weird stuff. Rituals, candles, chanting at all hours. Neighbors said he'd stand in the yard at night, staring at the sky like he was waiting for something. Then one day, he just vanished, left everything behind. Clothes, furniture, even food on the table." I forced a laugh. Sounds like he skipped town or got abducted by aliens. Pete didn't laugh. Maybe, but folks say the house changed after that. Got restless. Restless how? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. He shrugged. Noises. Shadows. Stuff you can't explain. Just watch yourself, okay? I nodded, watching him head back to his place. Restless. The word stuck with me as I went inside, locking the door behind me. The house felt bigger that night, the shadows sharper. I turned on every light I could, but the corners stayed dark. Later, as I lay in bed, the thudding started again, slow, steady, right above me. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing it away. But then came something new, a low, raspy hum, like air leaking from a broken pipe. It rose and fell, almost like breathing. I sat up, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling. The hum stopped, but the cold crept in, settling over me like a damp sheet. I didn't sleep much after that. Saturday morning hit me like a truck. I woke up groggy, my breath foggy in the air even though the heater was rattling away downstairs. The bedroom felt like a freezer, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. I stumbled out of bed, rubbing my arms, and checked the window. Shut tight, no drafts, just that icy chill hanging in the room like an uninvited guest. Downstairs, the kitchen was warmer, but not by much. I made coffee, the machine gurgling like it was mocking me, and tried to shake off the night. That humming sound, raspy, uneven, kept replaying in my head. It wasn't pipes. Pipes don't breathe. I pushed the thought away, focusing on the mug in my hands, the steam curling up like little ghosts. The day was normal enough. I ran errands, groceries, a cheap lamp from the thrift store, anything to stay out of the house. Millhaven was a sleepy little town, all faded signs and cracked sidewalks, but it felt alive compared to that creaky old place. By the time I got back, the sun was sinking, and the house sat there waiting, its windows dark and blank. I cooked dinner, chicken and rice, nothing fancy, and ate on the couch, TV blaring some game show I didn't care about. The noise helped. It covered the creaks, the thuds, the little groans the house made when it thought I wasn't listening. I told myself I was imagining things. Stress, maybe. The divorce had left me jumpy, and moving to a new town didn't help. That's all it was. But that night, the cold came back. I was halfway up the stairs when it hit me. A pocket of air so frigid it stung my face. I stopped, one hand on the banister, and exhaled. My breath puffed out white, curling in the dim light. The rest of the house felt normal, but that spot, right there on the fifth step, was like stepping into a deep freeze. What the hell? I muttered, waving my hand through it. The cold lingered, sharp and heavy, then faded as I climbed higher. I checked the thermostat downstairs, 68 degrees. Fine, normal. So, why did it feel like winter in July? In bed, I pulled the blankets tight, but the chill followed me. The room was a good 10 degrees colder than the hall, and no amount of tossing and turning warmed it up. Then the noises started. Thud, thud, thud. Those heavy steps pacing the attic. I stared at the ceiling, counting. 5 steps this time, then silence. My pulse thumped in my ears, loud enough to drown out the crickets outside. Just the house, I whispered. Old wood, old pipes. But then came the hum, low, raspy, like a throat full of dust. It wasn't loud, but it was close, like it was coming from the walls. I sat up, clutching the blanket, eyes darting around the room. Shadows stretched across the floor, long and thin, but nothing moved. The hum faded, leaving a ringing silence that felt worse somehow. I didn't sleep. I lay there, listening, waiting for it to come back. Around 3 a.m., I heard something new, a faint scrape, like nails dragging across wood. It came from the attic, slow and deliberate, then stopped. I told myself it was mice, squirrels, anything but what Pete had said. Restless. I wasn't ready to believe in ghosts or curses, or whatever Mrs. Hargrove and Pete thought lived here. Sunday, I decided to prove it. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Batteries weak, but it worked, and headed for the attic stairs. They were tucked behind a narrow door in the hall, the kind you'd miss if you weren't looking. The knob was cold, stiff, and the hinges screeched when I pulled it open. A wave of musty air hit me, thick with dust and something sour. The stairs were steep, wooden, and groaned under my weight. I flicked on the flashlight, the beam wobbling as I climbed. At the top, the attic stretched out, low ceiling, cluttered with cobwebs and shadows. Boxes sat in one corner, warped from damp. A cracked mirror leaned against the wall, reflecting my pale face back at me. No squirrels, no mice, just silence and that faint metallic smell I'd noticed downstairs. I swept the light around, half expecting to see boot prints in the dust. Nothing. The floor was filthy but undisturbed. I almost laughed. See? No footsteps, no ghosts. Just an old house with bad acoustics. But as I turned to leave, the beam caught something. A small leather-bound book tucked under a loose floorboard, barely sticking out. I knelt, prying the board up with my nails. The book was old, its cover cracked and stained. I flipped it open, and the first page stared back at me in spidery handwriting. Property of Elias Miller, 1897. My stomach twisted. Miller, the guy Pete mentioned. The one who vanished. I didn't read more. Not then. I shoved the book under my arm and hurried downstairs, slamming the attic door behind me. The house felt heavier after that, like it knew I'd found something it didn't want me to see. That night, the thudding was louder, closer. I didn't open the book right away. It sat on the kitchen counter all day Sunday, staring at me like it had a pulse. The leather was rough under my fingers when I carried it down, and that metallic smell clung to it, faint but stubborn. I told myself I'd look later, after coffee, after laundry, after I convinced myself it was just some old guy's diary and not a Pandora's box. But every time I walked by, my skin prickled. Work on Monday was a blur. I typed numbers, sipped lukewarm coffee, and nodded at co-workers, but my head was back at the house. Elias Miller. Rituals. Vanishing. Pete's words looped in my mind, tangling with Mrs. Hargrove's warnings. By the time I got home, the sky was a dull slate, and the house loomed darker than usual, its windows like black holes swallowing the last of the light. I microwaved leftovers and ate standing at the counter, the journal a foot away. Finally, I couldn't stall anymore. I grabbed it, flipped it open, and started reading. The handwriting was jagged, like Elias had been in a hurry or scared. Asterisk March 12, 1897. The whispers started tonight. Low, like wind through the eaves, but there's no storm. I thought it was the house at first. Old bones groaning, but it's not. It's them. They're here, in the walls, under the floor. I called to them, and they answered. Asterisk. I stopped, my fork halfway in my mouth. Whispers? Called to them? My stomach turned, but I kept going. Asterisk March 15th. The cold came with them. Spots of it, sharp and sudden. I feel their eyes when I sleep. Last night, I lit the candles and spoke the words again. The air thickened, heavy like wet cloth. They want something. I'll give it to them soon. Asterisk. The page ended there, ink smudged like he'd slammed the book shut. I flipped ahead, heart thudding. Asterisk April 3rd. The footsteps are louder now. They pace when I'm awake. Stop when I turn to look. I saw the shadow today, tall, thin, in the attic mirror. It wasn't me. I asked what they want. The answer came in scratches on the wall. More. Asterisk. I dropped the book, my hand shaking. Scratches? Shadows? This was crazy. Elias was unhinged. Some nut job playing with candles and fairy tales. But the cold spots, the thuds, that damn humming, it lined up too well. I stood there, staring at the journal, the microwave humming behind me like it was laughing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I left the bedroom light on, the bulb buzzing faintly, and kept the TV blaring downstairs. It didn't help. Around midnight, the thudding started, slow, heavy, right above me. I pulled the blanket tighter, counting the steps. 6 this time, then a pause. Then the hum kicked in, raspy, wet like a lung full of water. It wasn't the walls anymore. It was in the room. I bolted upright, eyes darting. The air was freezing, my breath puffing white. The hum grew louder, closer, until it felt like it was right beside me, vibrating in my chest. I scrambled out of bed, bare feet slapping the floor, and ran to the hall. The sound followed, fading as I hit the stairs, but the cold stayed, clinging to my skin. Downstairs, I grabbed a knife from the kitchen drawer, dull, but it felt better than nothing. I stood there, heart hammering, listening. Silence. No thuds, no hum. Just the TV droning some late-night ad. I almost laughed, me, clutching a butter knife, scared of noises. But then I heard it. A slow, deliberate creak from the stairs. 1 step. 2. Like something was coming down. I froze, staring at the doorway. The light from the hall flickered. Just for a second, and the creak stopped. I waited, knife trembling in my hand. But nothing came after 10 minutes. I crept back upstairs, every step a fight against the urge to run. The bedroom was empty, the air still cold but quieter. I didn't sleep. I sat against the headboard, knife on my lap, until dawn broke gray and thin through the window. The next day, I checked the attic again, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other. I climbed those groaning stairs, the journal's words clawing at me. The mirror was still there, cracked and cloudy. I avoided looking at it. The boxes, the dust, it all looked the same, but then I saw it. Faint scratches on the wall near the mirror, shallow and uneven. They spelled nothing I could read, just jagged lines like claw marks. I backed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Elias wasn't crazy. Or, if he was, I was catching it. The house wasn't just old. It was awake. I didn't go to work Tuesday. I called in sick, my voice hoarse from no sleep, and stayed home with the lights on. The house felt different in daylight. Still creaky, still cold in spots, but less alive. I kept the journal close, flipping through it between cups of coffee, trying to make sense of Elias Miller's ramblings. Each page pulled me deeper into his mess, and I hated how much it was starting to feel like mine. Asterisk April 10th, 1897. They whisper now, not just at night, during the day, too. Words I can't catch, like they're speaking through water. I gave them what they asked for last night. Blood, just a little, on the attic floor. The footsteps stopped for an hour. Then they came back louder. They're hungry. Asterisk. Blood? I slammed the book shut, my stomach lurching. This guy was nuts, cutting himself, talking to shadows. But those scratches I'd seen, the cold, the noises, they matched too perfectly. I paced the kitchen, the floorboards groaning under me, and tried to think straight. Old houses creak, pipes hum. That's it. I wasn't hearing whispers. I wasn't, except I was. It started that afternoon, faint and sneaky, while I was washing dishes. A low murmur, like voices muffled by a wall, coming from the sink. I turned off the faucet, soap dripping from my hands, and listened. There was soft, raspy, weaving in and out like a bad radio signal. I couldn't make out words, just a tone, urgent and pleading. My skin crawled. I backed away, staring at the drain like it might spit something up. The whispers stopped, but the house didn't. That night, I sat on the couch, TV loud, knife nearby. The thuds came at midnight. 7 steps this time, slow and heavy, pacing the attic. Then the hum, wet and close, right behind me. I spun around, knife up, but nothing was there, just the couch, the wall, the flickering TV. The air turned icy, my breath clouding, and the whispers kicked in again, louder now from the stairs. I stood, legs shaky, and crept to the doorway. The hall was dark, the light bulb flickering like it was dying. The whispers rolled down the steps, a jumble of sounds. Hisses, sighs, something like my name. Claire. Sharp, sudden, cutting through the rest. I dropped the knife, the clatter loud in the silence that followed. My heart slammed against my ribs. No way it said my name. I grabbed the journal again, flipping to a later entry, hands trembling. Asterisk April 22nd. They know me now. My name echoes back when I speak to them. I gave more blood. Too much, maybe. The shadow in the mirror moved last night. It reached out. I felt it cold, like ice on my skin. They're stronger. I opened the door too wide. Asterisk. I stopped reading, my eyes darting to the stairs. A door? What door? The attic door? My chest tightened. I hadn't seen a shadow move, but that cold, the way it stuck to me, heavy and wrong, it fit. I wanted to burn the book, pack my stuff, and run. But where? Back to my ex? To a motel I couldn't afford? This was my fresh start. Damn it. I wasn't letting some dead guy's ghost story chase me out. Still, I checked every room. The attic door was shut, the basement dark and silent. The bedroom was cold, the air thick, but nothing moved. I dragged the couch to block the stairs. Stupid, maybe, but it felt safer. Sleep came in fits. My dreams full of footsteps and whispers I couldn't escape. Wednesday morning, I found it. I'd left the journal on the coffee table. Open to that April 22nd page. When I picked it up, something slid out, a folded paper, yellowed and brittle. I unfolded it, my hands clammy. It was a sketch, a circle of jagged symbols, candles at the edges, and in the center, a crude drawing of a door. Not a real door, just lines like a portal with something dark spilling out. Underneath, in Elias's shaky scrawl, asterisk the right to call them. Do not finish. Asterisk. I stared at it. The coffee going cold in my mug. He'd done this. Some ritual, some messed up spell, and let something in. The whispers, the footsteps, the cold. It wasn't the house settling. It was them. Whatever they were, that night, the thuds didn't stop at 7. They kept going, 8, 9, 10, louder, closer, like they were coming down the stairs. I clutched the knife, the couch shaking as the steps hit the bottom. Then silence, dead, heavy silence. I waited, barely breathing, until a new sound cut through, a slow, wet scrape right outside the living room door. I didn't move. The scrape came again, slow, deliberate, like a blade dragging across wood, right outside the living room. My grip tightened on the knife, the handle slick with sweat. The TV flickered, static cutting to the sitcom laugh track, and the air turned so cold my teeth chattered. Whatever was out there, it wasn't a squirrel or a pipe. It was real and it was close. I stared at the doorway. The hall beyond swallowed in shadow. The couch pressed against the stairs creaked, like something heavy leaned on it. Then the whisper started, low, overlapping, a chorus of rasps and hisses. My name slipped through again, Claire, sharp and wet like it was gargled. I bit my lip to keep from screaming, tasting blood. The scrape stopped. Silence stretched out, thick and suffocating. I edged toward the doorway, knife up, every step a fight against the urge to bolt. The hall was empty, or so I thought. The light flickered again, and for a split second I saw it. A shadow, tall and thin, stretched across the wall. Not mine. It moved, jerked, like a puppet on strings, then vanished when the bulb steadied. I backed into the living room, heart hammering. This isn't happening. I whispered, but it was the journal, the noises, that sketch. It wasn't Elias's madness anymore. It was mine. I grabbed the book from the coffee table, flipping to the next entry, desperate for answers. Asterisk May 1st, 1897. They're here all the time now. The right worked too well. I gave them blood, my voice, my fear. The shadow touched me last night, cold and solid. It wants more than I can give. I hear them in the walls, under the floor, behind the mirror. They scratch when I sleep. I can't close the door. Asterisk. I dropped the journal, the sketch fluttering to the floor. That door, some supernatural gate he'd opened. Was it still open? The thud started again, but not from the attic. Lower, closer, like they were on the stairs. The couch shuddered, scraping an inch across the floor. I lunged, shoving it back, my shoulder aching from the effort. Something pushed back, hard. Stop it. I yelled, voice cracking. The thuds paused and picked up, faster, heavier, like boots stomping down. The whispers surged, a wall of sound, my name, over and over, Claire, 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 until it felt like they were inside my skull. I stumbled to the kitchen, slamming the door behind me, but the sound followed, seeping through the walls. The knife clattered to the counter as I fumbled for my phone. Call someone, Pete, Mrs. Hargrove, anyone. But the screen stayed black, battery dead despite being charged that morning. The lights dimmed, the hum kicking in, wet guttural, right behind me. I spun, but the kitchen was empty, just shadows, stretching too long, curling up the walls. Then I felt it cold, like a hand brushing my neck. I swatted at it, spinning again, but nothing was there. The air thickened, heavy with that metallic smell, and the whispers turned to a low growl, vibrating in my chest. I grabbed a knife and ran to the front door, yanking it open. The night air hit me, warm and still, a lifeline. I stood on the porch, panting, listening. The house went quiet. No thuds, no whispers, just a hum of crickets. I didn't go back inside that night. I sat on the steps, knife in hand, until the sky lightened. Pete's porch light flicked on across the street, and I saw him step out, squinting at me. "You okay?" he called, voice rough with sleep. "No," I said, my throat raw. "I heard it, all of it." He crossed over, hands in his pockets. The footsteps, and more. Whispers. Something touched me. I sounded crazy, but I didn't care. He nodded like it wasn't news. "Told you it's restless. You find anything up there? In the attic?" I hesitated, then told him about the journal, the sketch, Elias's rituals. His face darkened. "That's bad. Miller was messing with stuff he didn't understand. People said he didn't just vanish. Something took him." "Took him?" My voice shook. "What's in there, Pete?" He shrugged, eyes on the house. "Don't know, but if it's talking to you, it's awake. And it's not happy." I looked back at the door, still open, the hall dark and silent. Awake, hungry. Elias's words clawed at me. I'd felt it, whatever he'd called, and it knew my name. That morning, I went inside long enough to grab my keys and the journal. I wasn't staying another night. Not yet. I drove to the diner on the edge of town, the only place open at dawn. The journal sat on the passenger seat, its leather cover catching the weak morning light. My hand shook on the wheel, the knife tucked under my thigh like it could protect me from whatever I'd left behind. The house was 5 miles back, but I still felt it, those whispers, that cold touch, clinging to me like damp clothes. The diner was a fluorescent box, all chipped formica and grease-stained menus. I slid into a booth, ordered coffee, and stared at the journal. The waitress, mid-40s, tired eyes, set the mug down with clink. "Rough night?" she asked, voice flat. "You could say that." I forced a smile, but it felt like a grimace. She didn't push, just shuffled off to the next table. I sipped the coffee, bitter and too hot, and tried to think. Pete's words stuck with me. Asterisk, something took him. Asterisk, was that what I'd felt? Something Elias had let in. Still lurking, still hungry? I opened the journal, skipping to a later entry, my fingers smudging the pages. Asterisk, May 15th, 1897. I tried to stop it, burn the candles, reverse the words. It didn't work. The shadow's bigger now, taller than me, blacker than night. It moves when I'm not looking. Last night, it sat on my bed. I felt the weight, the cold. It whispered my name. "I can't leave, they follow." Asterisk. My stomach dropped. "Follow?" I glanced out the diner window, half expecting to see that shadow stretched across the parking lot. Nothing but gravel and a flickering streetlight. I kept reading. Asterisk, May 20th. The scratches are everywhere. Walls, floors, my arms. I didn't do it. They want more blood, more fear. I hear them laughing now, low and wet. I locked the attic. But it doesn't matter. They're not up there anymore. They're with me. Asterisk. The last line was scrawled, ink bleeding into the paper. "I'm sorry." That was it. No more entries. Just blank pages, yellowed and brittle. I closed the book, my coffee going cold. Elias hadn't vanished. He'd been taken by whatever he'd called through that door. And now it was calling me. The diner's hum, clinking dishes, low chatter, felt distant, like I was underwater. I rubbed my neck where that cold touch had brushed me, the skin still prickling. Was it following me now? I scanned the room. The waitress poured coffee. A trucker hunched over his eggs. Normal. Safe. But the air felt off. Thicker, cooler, like the house had stretched its fingers out here. I paid and left, clutching the journal. Outside, the morning was gray, the air damp with mist. I drove to Pete's place, figuring he'd know what to do. His truck was in the driveway, and he answered the door in a flannel shirt, hair messy from sleep. "Claire?" He squinted at me. "You look like hell." "I feel like it." I held up the journal. "It's worse. It's not just noises anymore." He let me in, and I spilled it all. The shadow, the whispers, the touch. His kitchen smelled like burnt toast, but it was warm, alive, nothing like the house. He listened, arms crossed, then sighed. "Sounds like it's latched onto you. Miller's thing, it doesn't stay put. My grandpa used to talk about that place. Said the ground's bad, cursed or something. People build on it anyway." "Cursed?" I laughed, sharp and shaky. "That's insane." "Is it?" He raised an eyebrow. "You're the one hearing your name." I didn't argue. "What do? I can't go back there." "Stay here today. I'll ask around. See if anyone knows how to shut it down. Old folks in town might remember something." I nodded, sinking into his couch. It smelled like dog hair and stale beer, but it was solid real. Pete left for work, promising to check in later. I tried a nap, the journal on the coffee table, but every creak of his house made me jump. By noon, I gave up and flipped through it again, landing on that sketch. The door, the symbols, the dark spill. I traced it with my finger, half hypnotized, until I heard it, a faint whisper, "Claire," from the kitchen. I froze. The room was empty. Sink, fridge, sunlight slanting through the blinds. But the air cooled my breath, puffing white. The whisper came again, closer, behind me. I spun, dropping the journal. Nothing, just Pete's cluttered living room. My pulse raced. It wasn't the house anymore. It was me. That night, Pete came back with a grim look. Talked to Mrs. Hargrove's sister. She says Miller didn't just vanish. They found blood, lots of it, in the attic. No body. Whatever he called, it's still there, and it's not done. I didn't sleep. The whispers followed me, faint but relentless, even in Pete's house. Pete's couch was lumpy, but I didn't care. I stayed there all night, eyes on the ceiling, listening. The whispers didn't stop, soft, insistent, threading to the hum of his fridge and the occasional car outside. "Claire," they hissed over and over, like a broken record stuck in my head. I clutched the journal, its weight a weird comfort, even though it was the root of all this. By morning, my nerves were shot. Pete made coffee, the pot gurgling as he leaned against the counter. "You hear it here too, huh?" he said, not looking at me. "Yeah." My voice was a croak. "It's not the house anymore. It's me." He nodded like he'd expected it. "Mrs. Hargrove's sister, Edna. She said once it knows you, it doesn't let go easy. Miller fed it, made it strong. You living there woke it up." I rubbed my eyes, gritty from no sleep. "Fed it what? Blood? Fear? Both, probably. Edna thinks it's some kind of spirit. Old, tied to that land. Miller's rituals just gave away in. So how do I stop it?" I asked, desperate for something concrete. He shrugged. She didn't know. Said burning the house might work, but good luck with that. You'd need more than matches. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Great. I'm stuck with a ghost stalker." Pete didn't smile. "You can crash here till we figure it out. I'll dig more today. Talk to some old-timers." He left for work, and I stayed, pacing his cramped living room. The whispers followed, louder in the quiet, raspy, wet, like they were breathing down my neck. The air cooled in patches, sharp little stabs of cold that moved with me. I tried the TV, blasting some morning show, but the voices cut through, my name slicing the chatter. Around noon, it got worse. I was in the kitchen, pouring water, when the glass slipped, froze midair for a second, then crashed to the floor. I stared at the shards, heart pounding. The whispers surged, a wave of sound, and the room darkened, like a cloud passed over the sun. I felt again, that cold touch, firmer now, wrapping around my wrist. I yanked back, stumbling into the counter, but the grip tightened, icy and solid. "Get off me!" I shouted, swinging at nothing. The cold let go, but the air stayed heavy, the metallic smell from the house creeping in. I ran to the living room, grabbing the journal. The sketch stared up at me. That door, those symbols, Elias had opened it. Could I close it? I flipped back, scanning for anything, some hint, some fix. One line caught me, asterisk May 10th. I tried salt, holy water. It laughed, deep like thunder. The door stays open unless they're satisfied. Asterisk satisfied. What did that mean? More blood? Me? The day dragged on, the whispers a constant drone. By dusk, Pete came back, his face tight. Found an old guy at the bar, Tom. Says Miller wasn't the first. Back in the 1850s, a family disappeared there. No bodies, just blood. Town buried it. Built the house later. Whatever's there, it's been around a long time. I sank onto the couch. And it's got me now. He sat across from me, elbows on his knees. Tom thinks it feeds on fear. The more you give it, the stronger it gets. You gotta fight it, starve it. Fight it how? I snapped. It's in my head, Pete. I can't just ignore it. I don't know, but running won't help. It's already here. He was right. That night, it proved it. I lay on the couch, lights on, when the thud started. Not from above, but from the floor under me. Slow, heavy, like boots climbing up. The whispers turned to growls, low and guttural, vibrating the cushions. I sat up, knife in hand, as the cold swept in, thick and suffocating. Then I saw it, a shadow, tall and jagged, in the corner by the TV. It didn't move like a shadow should, sharp edge, bending wrong. It grew, stretching up the wall, arms too long, head tilted. The growl stopped, and it whispered my name, clear as a bell, Claire. I swung the knife, slashing air, and it flickered, gone for a second, then back, closer. I screamed, scrambling off the couch. Pete burst in, bleary-eyed, but the shadow was gone. The room warmed, the whispers fading to a hiss. "What happened?" he asked, grabbing my arm. "It was here," I gasped. "The shadow. It's not staying in the house." He cursed under his breath. "We need help. Tomorrow we find someone, priest, psychic, whatever. It's not playing anymore." I nodded, but deep down I knew it wasn't done with me, and I wasn't sure I could outrun it. Morning came too slow. I didn't sleep, just sat on Pete's couch, knife in one hand, journal in the other, waiting for the shadow to come back. It didn't, but the whispers stayed, a low buzz under every sound. The clock ticking, the wind outside, my own breathing. My name slipped through now and then. Claire, soft and taunting, like it was toying with me. Pete was up at dawn, frying eggs that I couldn't stomach. "We're finding someone today," he said, scraping the pan. "Priest, exorcist. Hell, a witch if we have to. This thing's not winning." I nodded, too tired to argue. The shadow in his living room last night. It wasn't just a trick of the light. It had weight, intent. Elias's words echoed. They follow. I brought it here, and now Pete was in it too. We started at the church, a squat brick building on Main Street, paint peeling off the steeple. The pastor, a wiry guy named Reverend Hale, met us in the office. He listened, hand steepled, as I spilled it all. The house, the journal, the shadow. Pete chimed in about the town stories, the blood, the disappearances. Hale frowned, tapping his desk. Sounds like a haunting. Old places carry old sins. But this shadows moving, touching you, that's not just a ghost. That's something darker. Can you stop it? I asked, voice thin. He hesitated. I can bless you, pray over the house. But if this is tied to a ritual, like you say, it's beyond me. You need someone who knows the occult. Someone who can close whatever Miller opened. Know anyone? Pete pressed. Hale scribbled a name, Margaret Voss, and a number. She's odd, lives out by the woods. Used to be a professor. Studied old religions, folklore. If anyone can help, it's her. We left with a prayer, and a pamphlet I didn't read. The whispers followed me out, louder in the car, curling around the edges of my name. Pete drove, jaw tight, while I called Voss. She picked up on the third ring, voice sharp and gravelly. "Who's this?" "Claire, I've got a problem. Something's following me from a house. Reverend Hale said you might know what to do." A pause and a grunt. "Ritual trouble?" "Yeah, old journal. Symbols, a door." "Stop. Don't say more on the phone. Come now. 17 Oak Road." She hung up. The drive took us past town, into a tangle of trees and dirt roads. Voss's place was a cabin weathered and squat, with a sagging porch. She was waiting, tall, gray hair in a braid, eyes like steel. She didn't invite us in, just pointed to a table outside, cluttered with books and jars. "Show me," she said, lighting a cigarette. I handed her the journal, the sketch tucked inside. She skimmed it, smoke curling from her nose, then tapped the symbols. "This is bad. Blood right. Old as dirt. Opens a crack, lets things through. Hungry things. Can you close it?" I asked, my throat dry. "Maybe. Need to see the house. Find the anchor where he did it. But if it's following you, it's already got a taste. Fear's like candy to them." "A taste?" Pete cut in. "It's been in my place too." She squinted at him. "Then it's spreading. We go tonight. Salt it, bind it, see if it fights." I didn't like "if it fights," but I nodded. We drove back to Pete's. The whisper's a constant hum now. My name sharper every time. I tried a nap, but the cold hit. Sudden, brutal, right on the couch. My eyes snapped open, and there was the shadow in the corner again, taller, blacker, arms stretching toward me. The whispers turned to a growl, deep and wet, and I felt it. Weight pressing my chest, cold sinking into my lungs. I screamed, thrashing, and it vanished. Pete ran in, eyes wide. What the hell? It was here. I gasped, clutching my chest. It sat on me. He cursed, grabbing his keys. We're not waiting. Voss now. The drive to the house was a blur, the whispers a roar in my ears. Voss met us there, a bag slung over her shoulder, salt, chalk, candles. The house loomed, darker than the night, windows like eyes. She stepped onto the porch, muttering, then froze. It's awake, and it knows we're here. Before I could ask, the front door creaked open, slow, on its own. The growl rolled out, low and hungry. The door swung wide, and a wave of cold hit us, sharp biting, like stepping into a freezer. The growl rolled out again, low and wet, vibrating in my chest. Voss didn't flinch. She pulled a bag of salt from her pack, muttering under her breath, and stepped inside. Pete followed, his flashlight beam slicing through the dark. I went last, the journal clutched tight, my legs shaky but moving. The living room smelled like rot and metal, thicker than ever. The air was heavy, pressing down, and the whispers surged, my name over and over. Claire, Claire, a chorus of rasps and hisses. Voss poured salt in a line across the doorway, her hand steady. Keeps it contained, she said. For now. Contained? Pete's voice was tight. It's already everywhere. Not yet, she snapped. It's tied to something, an anchor. We find it, we can bind it. The thud started, heavy, deliberate, from the stairs. The couch I'd shoved her scraped forward, inch by inch, like something pushed it. Voss cursed, pulling chalk from her bag. She drew symbols on the floor, jagged, like the ones in Elias's sketch, while growls grew louder, shaking the walls. Attic, I said, my throat dry. That's where he did it. The scratches, the mirror. She nodded. Lead the way. The stairs creaked under us, each step colder than the last. My breath puffed white, the flashlight trembling in Pete's grip. Halfway up, the cold tightened, ice on my skin, and the whispers turned to screams. My name a shriek that clawed my ears. I stumbled, grabbing the banister, and felt it, a hand, cold and solid, wrapping my ankle. I kicked, yelling, and it let go, but the growls followed, closer now. The attic door was ajar, the hinges groaning as we pushed through. The room was a mess, dust, boxes, that cracked mirror reflecting our pale faces. The scratches on the wall were deeper, fresh, like something had clawed them that day. Voss knelt, spreading salt in a circle, her voice rising. Words I didn't know, sharp and old. The shadow came then. It didn't creep. It exploded, black and jagged, from a mirror, taller than the room, arms stretching, bending wrong. The growls turned to a roar, and the cold slammed into us, knocking Pete's flashlight out. It rolled, the beam spinning, and I saw it. Eyes in the shadow, glinting red, locked on me. Claire, Pete shouted, grabbing my arm. Voss kept chanting, lighting candles, their flames flickering blue. The shadow lunged, and I swung the journal like a shield. It hit something, solid, freezing, and the thing recoiled, hissing my name. The anchor's the mirror. Voss yelled, tossing me a candle. Break it. I didn't think. I smashed the candle into glass. Shards flying, and the shadow screamed, a sound like nails on metal. The room shook, dust raining down, the cold tightened, crushing my chest. Pete grabbed a box, slamming into the frame, and the mirror cracked more, the shadow shrinking, twisting. Voss finished her chant, throwing salt at it. The shadow writhed, the red eyes fading, and the growls turned to a whine. Then silence, sudden, deafening. The cold lifted, the air thinning. I dropped to my knees, gasping, the journal slipping from my hands. Is it gone? Pete asked, voice hoarse. Voss kicked the mirror shards, her face grim. Bound, not gone. The right's broken, but it's still here, weak, pissed off. You can't stay. I nodded, too drained to argue. We stumbled downstairs, the house quiet but heavy, like it was holding its breath. Outside, the night was still, crickets chirping like nothing had happened. Voss packed her bag, glancing back. It'll wait for someone else. What about me? I asked, my voice small. She shrugged. It knows you. Might follow, might not. Starve it. Fears what it eats. Pete drove me to his place. I didn't look back at the house, but I felt it. Watching, waiting. Pete's truck rattled as we pulled away. The house shrinking in the rearview mirror. I didn't look back. Couldn't. My hand still shook. The journal on my lap. Its leather warm against my cold fingers. The night was quiet now. No whispers, no thuds. Just the hum of the engine and Pete's ragged breathing. Voss had stayed behind, scattering more salt, muttering about loose ends. I didn't ask what that meant. You okay? Pete asked, eyes on the road. No, I said, honest for once. But I'm alive. He grunted, a half laugh. Good enough. His place felt different when we got there. Warmer, lighter, like the shadow hadn't touched it again. I crashed on the couch, too wired to sleep, replaying it all. The mirror shattering, the shadow scream, Voss's grim warning. It'll wait. For what? Me? Someone else? The thought gnawed at me, but exhaustion won out. I passed out, dreamless for first time in days. Morning came gray and slow. Pete made coffee, and we sat in silence, the journal between us like a third person. What now? He finally said. I can't go back. I replied, stirring my mug. Not there. Stay here till you figure it out. Job's still yours, right? Yeah. I nodded, grateful. Data entries sounded like heaven compared to this. Thanks, Pete. He shrugged. Least I can do. That thing's my neighbor, too. I spent the day packing my stuff in the house. Quick, mechanical, with Pete watching the door. The place was still, no creaks, no cold spots. But it felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. I grabbed clothes, books, dishes, and left the rest. The landlord could deal with it. I wasn't explaining this. By night, I was back at Pete's, my boxes stacked in the spare room. The whispers were gone, the air normal. But I kept the knife close. Voss called, her voice crackly over the line. It's quiet now, bound tight, but don't test it, stay away. Trust me, I'm done, I said, and she hung up without goodbye. Days blurred into routine. Work, Pete's couch takeout. The house faded to a bad memory, something I could almost laugh about, almost, but then it started again, small at first. A faint whisper in the shower. Claire. So soft, I thought it was the water. A cold spot by the window. Gone when I blinked. A shadow in the corner of my eye. Flickering out when I turned. I didn't tell Pete. Didn't want to drag him back in. But it was there, weak, sneaky, waiting. One night, I woke up, the room dark, and felt it weight on the couch, cold pressing my legs. My breath caught, puffing white, and the whisper came, Claire, right by my ear. I bolted up, knife in hand, but nothing, just silence, the air warming slow. I moved out the next week. Found a cheap apartment in town, all white walls and new paint, nothing old, nothing creaky. Pete helped haul my boxes. Quiet, but steady. You sure? He asked, setting the last one down. Yeah, I lied. Fresh start. He didn't push. I settled in, kept the lights on, the TV loud. Work kept me busy and the whispers stayed faint, distant echoes, easy to ignore. But some nights, I'd feel it. That cold brush on my neck, a shadow stretching too long. I'd grip the knife, stare at nothing and wait it out. It wasn't gone. Voss was right. It was waiting, patient, hungry. I starred it best I could, locked the fear down tight. But I knew it remembered me, and it wasn't done. Story 2. The apartment smelled like stale cigarettes and lemon cleaner when I first walked in. It was a third-floor walk-up in a brick building that leaned slightly, like it was tired of standing. I just started a job at the local library, shelving books, scanning cards, nothing glamorous. But after months of crashing on my sister's couch post-breakup, I needed my own space. This place was cheap, close to work, and mine. That's what mattered. The landlord, a wiry guy named Mr. Denson, handed me the key, a heavy, old-fashioned thing with teeth worn smooth. Locks stick sometimes, he said, scratching his stubbled chin. And don't mind the noises. Buildings got character. He smirked like it was a joke, then shuffled off, leaving me with a lease and a vague warning about the neighbors. Inside, the quirks hit fast. The hardwood floors creaked under every step, loud enough to wake a coma patient. The kitchen faucet dripped, a steady plink-plink that echoed in the empty space. And the bedroom had this faint whiff of something sweet, like old perfume gone sour. I figured it was the last tenant's mess, nothing a candle couldn't fix. I hauled in my stuff. 2 suitcases, a thrift store lamp, a mattress still in plastic, and started settling in. That first night, I noticed a door. It was in the living room, tucked beside the sagging bookshelf, a narrow slab of wood, painted the same dull beige as the walls. No knob, just a keyhole, small and dark, like an eye staring back. I ran my fingers over it, feeling faint scratches in the paint, but it didn't budge. Probably a closet, I thought, sealed up years ago. Old buildings are full of weird stuff like that. The next morning, I met Ruby. She lived across the hall, a short woman with dyed red hair and a smoker's rasp. I was fumbling with my trash bags when she poked her head out. New blood, huh? She said, eyeing me like I was a stray cat. Yeah, I'm Sam. I offered a half-wave, awkward but friendly. Ruby. She lit a cigarette, exhaling a cloud that stung my nose. How's 3 be treating you? Fine so far. Creaky, but I'll live. She snorted. Give it time. That place of stories. Last guy didn't last a month. Bolted out one night, yelling about doors and footsteps. Cops thought he was drunk. I laughed uneasy. Footsteps? Like ghosts. Maybe. She shrugged, tapping ash onto the floor. Folks say it's been weird since the 70s. Some nut who lived there kept to himself, then poof, gone. Left all his junk behind. Creepy, I said, playing it off. Guess I'll lock my doors. Ain't no lock gonna help that place, she muttered, then ducked back inside, leaving me with a chill I couldn't shake. I brushed it off. Old buildings, old rumors, nothing new. That night, I cooked ramen on the ancient stove, the burner hissing like it was mad at me. The TV flickered, some late-night game show, and I crashed early, the mattress creaking under me. Around 2 a.m., I woke up, thirsty, groggy, the room dark except for a streetlight glow. I shuffled to the kitchen, the floor moaning with every step. Then I heard it, A soft click, like a latch turning. I froze, glass in hand, eyes darting to the living room. The sound came again, click, click, from that weird door. My pulse jumped, but I told myself it was a building settling, pipes clanking, something normal. I crept closer, the air cooling as I neared. The keyhole glinted, and for a second, I swore I saw it widen, like it was breathing. I backed off, heart thumping, and checked the clock. 3:01 a.m. The clicking stopped, the apartment silent again. Just tired. I muttered, climbing back into bed. But as I drifted off, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone on the other side had noticed me. Morning light filtered through the grimy windows, weak and yellow, making the clicking from last night feel like a half-remembered dream. I rolled out of bed, the mattress springs groaning, and shuffled to the kitchen. The faucet still dripped, plink-plink, and that sour, sweet smell lingered in the bedroom. But I shrugged it off. New place, new noises, nothing coffee couldn't fix. Work at the library was quiet. I pushed carts of books through the stacks, the smell of old paper grounding me. My co-worker, Jen, a lanky girl with purple streaks in her hair, noticed my yawn. "Rough night?" she asked, scanning returns. "Yeah, new apartments loud. Creaky floors, weird clicks." I kept it light, not mentioning the door. Didn't want to sound unhinged on day 3. She smirked. "Old buildings are the worst. Mine's got a radiator that sounds like a dying cat." I nodded, forcing a laugh. Normal stuff. That's all it was. By the time I got home, the sky was bruising purple, and the apartment felt bigger, emptier. I microwaved a burrito, the hum cutting through the silence, and flicked on the TV. The door caught my eye, still shut, still knobless, its keyhole a dark speck. I avoided looking at it too long. That night, I set my phone alarm for 6:30 and crashed. Sleep came fast, heavy, until something yanked me awake. No sound at first, just a feeling like the air had shifted. I squinted at my phone, 2:58 a.m. My mouth was dry, so I sat up, rubbing my eyes. Then it came. Click, click, click. Slow, steady from the living room. I held my breath, listening. The clicks rolled on, like a key turning in a lock, over and over. I slipped out of bed, bare feet cold on the creaky floor, and crept to the doorway. The TV was off, the room dim, streetlight casting long shadows. The door sat there, same as always, except the keyhole. It looked bigger, darker, like a hole punched through the wood. The clicking stopped at 3 o'clock sharp, replaced by a low hum, faint, buzzing, like a fly trapped in a jar. I stepped closer, the air cooling around me. The hum grew, vibrating in my teeth, and that sweet sour smell hit, stronger now, like rotting flowers. I leaned in, stupidly curious, and the hum sharpened, almost a voice, raspy and broken, saying nothing I could catch. My skin prickled. I backed off, heart thudding. The hum faded, the keyhole shrinking to normal, or so I told myself. Building settling, I whispered, voice shaky. I grabbed a glass of water and went back to bed, pulling the blanket tight. Sleep didn't come easy after that. Every creak, every drip, sounded louder, closer. By morning, I was wrecked, bags under my eyes, nerves frayed, but I dragged myself to work anyway. Jen noticed again. "You look dead, Sam. That place keeping you up?" "Something like that," I said, shelving a book too hard. Heard weird noises again. Clicks like a lock. She raised an eyebrow. "Maybe it's the neighbors. Or rats. Old buildings, you know?" "Yeah, probably." I didn't mention the hum, the smell, the way that door felt alive. Rats don't whisper. That evening, I stopped by Ruby's door, needing answers. She answered in a bathrobe, cigarette dangling. "What's up, kid?" "The apartment," I said, shifting on my feet. "You said the last guy heard stuff." "Like what?" She exhaled smoke. "Eye me." "Footsteps, mostly." Said they came from the walls, the ceiling, places they shouldn't. Kept ranting about a door that wouldn't stay shut. Cops found him half-dressed on the street, babbling. "A door?" My stomach tightened. "Like in the living room?" She shrugged. Dunno, he wasn't big on details. Why? You hearing things. I hesitated. Clicks. At night, from that sealed door. Her eyes narrowed. Watch yourself. That place doesn't like company. She shut the door before I could ask more. Back in 3B, I stare at the door, its keyhole glinting. Clicks, footsteps, a hum. None of it added up, but as I cooked dinner, the floor creaking under me, I couldn't shake Ruby's words. That night, I stayed up, phone in hand, waiting for 3 a.m. whatever it was, I'd face it. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. The hum, the clicks, Ruby's story, they buzzed in my head like flies I couldn't swat. I sat on the couch, TV on low, some infomercial about knives. Phone propped beside me, counting down to 3 a.m. The apartment was quiet, just the drip of the faucet and the occasional groan of the floor. Too quiet, maybe. It felt like the place was holding its breath. At 2:55, I turned the TV off, the silence rushing in thick and heavy. My eyes locked on the door. Still shut, still knobless. That keyhole a dark pinprick. I gripped my phone, thumb hovering over the flashlight, waiting. The air cooled, slow at first, then sharp like a draft from nowhere. My breath puffed out, faint and white, and I checked the time, 2:59. The click started right on cue. Click, 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 slow, mechanical, like a lock tumbling open. I stood, legs shaky, and aimed the flashlight. The beam hit the door. It would dull and scratch, but the keyhole, it widened, stretching like a pupil dilating. The click sped up, a staccato rhythm, and that hum kicked in, low, raspy, buzzing in my chest. The sweet sour smell rolled out, thick now, like spoiled candy left in the sun. I stepped closer, the floor creaking loud under me. The hum sharpened, almost words, guttural, broken, nothing I could make out. My flashlight flickered, the beam jumping, and I saw it. A shadow, thin and jagged, spilling from the keyhole, not on the wall, through it, like ink bleeding into water, curling toward me. What the hell? I whispered, voice cracking. The shadow twitched, stretching, and the hum turned to a hiss, sharp close, like it was in my ear. I stumbled back, the flashlight dropping, its light spinning across the room. The click stopped, 3:01, and the shadow snapped back into keyhole, gone in a blink. The hum faded, the air warming, but that smell lingered, coating my throat. I stood there, panting, staring at the door. Normal again, sealed, silent, just a slab of wood. But it wasn't. Something was behind it. Something alive. I grabbed the flashlight, hands trembling, and checked the keyhole up close. It was small, ordinary, no shadow, no sound. Had I imagined it? No. The cold, the hiss, it was real. Work the next day was a slog. I shelved books on autopilot. Eyes gritty, mind replaying the night. Jen caught me zoning out. Sam, seriously, you okay? You're a zombie. Didn't sleep? I muttered. Heard stuff again. Clicks a hum. Saw something. She frowned, leaning on the cart. Like what? A shadow, moving, from this weird door in my place. I sounded nuts, but I was past caring. Her eyes widened. That's freaky. Maybe it's haunted. You checked the history? Not yet. I hadn't even thought of that. Just know the last guy freaked out and ran. Dig into it, she said, half serious. Old buildings hide stuff. I nodded, filing it away. That evening, I stopped by Ruby's again. She answered, cigarette glowing, and I didn't waste time. The door in my living room, sealed up, no knob. You know anything about it? She squinted, exhaling smoke. Heard about it, yeah. Last guy said it moved. Open on its own at night. Kept saying 3 a.m. like a broken clock. I thought he was cracked. It clicked last night, I said, voice low, and there was a shadow, a sound like a voice. She didn't laugh. Told you that place is off. Been that way since the 70s guy. Neighbor said he was into weird shit. Candles, chanting, locked himself in for days. Then nothing. Cops found the place empty, just that smell. What smell? My stomach tightened. Sweet rotten, like bad perfume. You smell it too. Yeah, I swallowed every night. She shook her head. Get out, Sam. That door's trouble. I went back to 3B, her words sinking in. The apartment felt heavier, the creaks sharper. I cooked pasta, the pot clanging, but my eyes kept drifting to the door. That night, I had wait up, just went to bed, hoping it'd skip a night. It didn't. At 3 a.m., the clicks woke me, the hum buzzing through the walls. I stayed still, eyes shut, praying it'd stop. It didn't. Something scraped, slow, like nails on the other side. The scrape stuck with me all morning, slow, deliberate, like someone dragging claw across wood. I'd lain there after it stopped, eyes squeezed shut, waiting for more. Nothing came, just silence and that lingering sweet rot smell, thicker than before. When dawn hit, I was a wreck, head pounding, hands shaky, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. Whatever was behind that door, it wasn't rats or pipes. Work was a haze. I shelved books, misfiled half of them, and barely heard Jen's chatter. She caught me staring at a cart, blank-faced. Sam, you're scaring me. What's up? It's the apartment, I said, voice low. Heard something scraping last night. From that door. She leaned in, eyes wide. Scraping? Like nails. Yeah, and the hum, it's louder. I think it's the wake. Awake? She half laughed, then stopped. You're serious. Okay, you've got to look into it. Library's got old records, newspapers, tenant logs. Start there. She was right. I spent my lunch break in the basement stacks, digging through microfiche, the machine word, spitting out grainy headlines from the 70s. I found it in a 1978 issue. Local man missing. Apartment left abandoned. The guy, Leonard Fisk, lived in 3B. No photo, just a line about neighbors reporting odd behavior. Late night noises, a strange smell. Cops found the place empty. Furniture untouched, a faint stain on the living room floor. No body, no leads. Case cold. I scrolled further, heart thudding. Another hit, 1965. A woman in 3B vanished too. Same deal. Sudden no trace. Just whispers of weird smells and locked doors. The pattern gnawed at me. Something about that apartment swallowed people whole. Back home, I couldn't sit still. The door loomed, its keyhole glinting in the evening light. I grabbed a butter knife. Dumb, but it felt better than nothing, and tapped the wood. Solid, no give. The scratches around the keyhole were deeper, fresher, like something had clawed at it. I pressed my ear against it, holding my breath. Nothing, just the drip of the faucet, the hum of the fridge. That night, I stayed up again, phone ready, knife on the coffee table. At 2:59, the air cooled sharp, sudden, my breath fogging. The clicks kicked in, click, 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 faster this time, like a lock jamming. I aimed the flashlight, the beam steady on the door. The keyhole widened, dark and gaping, and the hum rolled out, raspy, wet, a voice struggling to form. The shadow came next, spilling through, thin and twitching, reaching across the floor. I stood, knife up. Were you? I shouted, voice cracking. The hum sharpened, my name, Sam, low and guttural, like gravel in a throat. The shadow lunged fast, and I swung the knife, slicing air. It recoiled, hissing, and the sweet rot smell hit me like a punch, thick enough to choke on. The click stopped, 3:01, and the shadow snapped back, the keyhole shrinking, the hum fading to a buzz. I dropped the knife, panting, staring at the door. It knew my name, not just a sound, a voice calling me. I stumbled to the kitchen, splashing water on my face, but the smell stuck, coating my skin. Sleep was out. I sat on the couch, lights blazing, till morning. Next day, I cornered Ruby outside her door. Leonard Fisk. I said, no preamble. The 70s guy. What did you hear? She lit a cigarette. Squinting. Quiet type. Kept odd hours. Always smelled like incense. Neighbor said he talked to himself, or something. Then he was gone. Cops didn't care. Figured he skipped town. He didn't, I said, voice tight. It's that door. It's doing something. She exhaled smoke, Slow. Told you to get out. That place eats people. I went back to 3B. Ruby's words ringing. The apartment felt tighter. The creaks louder. I checked the door. Still shut, but the scratches were longer, curling like fingers. That night, I heard it again. Clicks, hum, my name, and then a new sound. A slow, heavy thud, like a footstep from the other side. That thud shook me. It wasn't loud, just a single, heavy step, like someone planting a boot on the other side of the door. But it hit me like a punch. I'd been half asleep on the couch, lights on, knife close, when it came at 3 a.m. sharp, right after the clicks and the hum calling my name. The shadow had flickered too, longer this time, brushing the edge of the coffee table before snapping back. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just waited. No more steps, just silence, thick and cold. Morning didn't erase it. I dragged myself to the kitchen. The faucets dripped mocking me as I made coffee. The sweet rot smell lingered, stuck in my nose, and the apartment felt smaller, the walls leaning in. Work was a blur. Books shelved wrong. Jen's questions dodged. "Sam, you're freaking me out," she said, catching me staring at nothing. I mumbled something about sleep and bolted at closing. I needed answers. Back at the library after hours. Jen let me use her key. I dug deeper into the microfiche. Leonard Fisk's case was thin, but I found scraps. A neighbor complained about chanting in 3B, a report of scratching noises the night he vanished. Then, buried in a 1950s column, another tenant. Edith Crane, 3B, gone without a trace. Her sister claimed she'd been obsessed with a locked door, heard voices at night. The pattern was clear. The apartment didn't just lose people. It took them. I got home late, the stairwell creaking under me. The door sat there, keyhole glinting, scratches deeper, like something had clawed harder. I avoided it, cooking ramen with the TV loud, but my eyes kept drifting back. Ruby's warning, asterisk that place eats people asterisk, felt less like a metaphor now. That thud wasn't random. It was testing me. Sleep dodged me again. I sat up, phone in hand, waiting for 3 a.m. When it hit, the click started, sharp, insistent, then the hum, my name rasping out, "Sam," clearer now, like it was learning to speak. The shadow spilled through, reaching further, brushing the couch. I gripped the knife, heart pounding, as the sweet rot smell choked the air. Then the thud, louder, closer, followed by another. 2 steps, deliberate, right behind the door. I stood, knife shaking. "What do you want?" I yelled. The hum spiked. My name again, Sam. Drawn out, mocking, and the shadow twitched, stretching toward me. A third thud hit, and the door rattled just a hair, like something pushed it. I swung the knife, useless, and the shadow hissed, pulling back. The click stopped, 3:01, and the room settled, but the smell stayed, heavy and wet. I didn't sit after that. Paced the apartment, lights blazing till dawn. The footsteps, they weren't just sounds. Something was moving, getting bolder. I checked the door at sunrise, still shut, but the scratches were fresh, curling into jagged lines. I ran my finger over them, and the wood felt warm, almost pulsing. Work was a write-off. I called in sick, voice hoarse, and went to Ruby's. She answered, cigarette in hand, scowling. "You look like death, kid." "It's the door," I said, breathless. Footsteps now. 3 last night. It's coming through. She froze, smoke curling from her lips. 3? Shit. The last guy I heard footsteps too. So they got closer every night till he ran. "You're on borrowed time." "What's it want?" I pressed. "Fisk. The others, they're gone." "Why?" She shrugged, grim. "Dunno. But that 70s freak, Fisk, he was into occult crap. Books, symbols, locked that door himself. Maybe he let something in." I went back to 3B, her words sinking in. The apartment hummed with quiet menace. The creaks sharper. I grabbed a flashlight and knelt by the door, shining it into the keyhole. Darkness, endless, like it went nowhere. But then, faint, far off, a shuffle like feet on dirt. My stomach dropped. There was something there. That night, The thuds came again, for this time slow and heavy, shaking the floor. For thuds, that's what woke me. For heavy, deliberate steps, rattling the floor at 3 a.m. sharp. I'd been on the couch, half dozing, knife in hand, when the click started, then the hum, my name, Sam, slithering out, wet and rough. The shadow stretched longer this time, clawing across the living room, and that sweet rot smell hit like a wave, thick enough to gag on. The thuds came last, each one closer. The door trembled with the fourth. I yelled, swinging the knife, and it stopped. 3:01, but the air stayed cold, the shadow lingering a second too long. I didn't sleep after that. Sat there, lights on, staring at the door. The scratches were deeper by morning, curling into shapes, lines, loops, almost symbols, though it felt warmer, alive. And when I pressed my ear to it, I heard it again, a faint shuffle like boots on gravel, far off but real. Something was moving back there, pacing, waiting. Work was off the table. I called in sick again, ignoring Jen's worried text, and went back to the library. The basement stacks were dim, the microfiche machine humming as I hunted for more. I found a 1978 police note on Fisk. Apartment contained occult items, books, candles, a sealed door with markings. No details, just a line about unexplained stains. Then a tenant list. 3B had 6 disappearances since 1950. All sudden, all tied to odd noises or locked doors. The apartment wasn't just haunted. It was a trap. I got home, head spinning, and faced the door. The keyhole glinted, daring me. I grabbed the butter knife and jammed it into the scratches, prying at the wood. It didn't budge, solid like stone, but something fell out, a small, rusted key clattering to floor, same as the one Mr. Denson gave me, but older, crusted with grime. My stomach twisted. It fit the keyhole. I knew it without trying. I didn't touch it, left it there, gleaming dully in Pace's apartment. Ruby's voice echoed. Asterisk Fisk locked that door himself. Asterisk, had he sealed something in? Or out? The key felt like a taunt, a dare. I cooked dinner, burnt toast, all I could manage, and kept the TV loud. But my eyes stayed on that key, the door, the scratches. Night came fast. I couldn't avoid it. 3 a.m. loomed. I sat up, knife ready, the key still on the floor. At 2:59, the air iced over, my breath fogging. The clicks fired up, sharp, frantic, then the hum. Sam, loud and clear, like it was in the room. The shadow poured out, longer, thinner, brushing the couch. 5 thuds hit, slow, heavy, shaking the walls, and the door rattled hard, paint flaking off. I stood, knife trembling. Leave me alone. I shouted. The hum laughed, low, wet, a gurgle, and the shadow lunged, cold brushing my arm. I slashed, hitting nothing, and it hissed, pulling back. The key on the floor twitched, moved an inch, like something tugged it. The thud stopped. 3:01, and the shadow snapped into the keyhole, but the key stayed, glinting closer to the door. I grabbed it, hand shaking, and shoved it in my pocket. No way I'd let it near that lock. Morning came gray and slow. I checked the door, new scratches sharper, forming a circle around the keyhole. I went to Ruby's, pounding her door till she answered, bleary-eyed. The footsteps, I said, breathless. 5 last night. And this. I held up the key. She paled, cigarette dropping. Where'd you get that? Fell from the door. Fisk's? Maybe. She swallowed. He had a key. Neighbors saw him use it. Late at night. Said he'd lock it and mutter like he was scared. You hear 5 steps. You're close to whatever he was running from. I pocketed the key, dread sinking in. It's coming through, isn't it? She nodded. Get out, Sam, before it's 6. Back in 3B. The apartment fell alive. Creaks louder, air heavier. I held the key, its weight cold, and knew. It wasn't just a lock. It was a door to something Fisk had woken up. The key burned a hole in my pocket all day. I didn't go to work. Couldn't face the library, Jen's questions, the normalcy of it all. Stayed in 3B, pacing, the rusted metal heavy against my thigh. 5 thuds last night. Ruby's warning. asterisk before it's 6 asterisk. And that laugh, wet and deep, replayed in my head. The apartment creeped around me, sharper now, like it was stretching awake. I kept the key out of the lock, but it didn't feel like enough. The door loomed, scratches circling the keyhole, like a crude rune, the wood warm under my fingers. That sweet rot smell seeped out, faint but constant, coating everything, my clothes, my skin. I checked the keyhole with the flashlight. Darkness, endless, and that shuffle again closer, like feet dragging through mud. My pulse spiked. It was waiting. I needed more. Went back to the library. Sneaking in late with Jen's key I'd forgotten to return. The microfiche word, spitting out scraps, a 1978 neighbor statement. Astor's fist locked that door every night. Said it kept something out. Smelled like death after he was gone. Asterisk a 1965 note. Asterisk Edith Crane left a diary. Claimed the key opened the wrong door at 3 a.m. Asterisk the diary was missing, but the pattern screamed. The key wasn't just Fisk's. It was older, tied to whatever ate 3 BS tenants. Back home, the apartment felt tighter, the air thick with that smell. I sat on the couch, key in hand, turning it over. Rusted, notched heavy, like it had been used too much. Ruby's words gnawed at me. He'd lock it and mutter, had he trapped something or let it loose? I shoved it under a couch cushion out of sight and tried to eat cold soup, spoon shaking. But the creaks grew louder, the faucets drip a taunt. Night fell and I couldn't dodge it. 3 a.m. loomed. I stayed up, knife on the table, lights blazing. At 2:59, the cold hit brutal, my breath a white cloud. The clicks fired up, fast, desperate. Then the hum, Sam, rolling out, deep and hungry. The shadows surged, long and jagged, brushing the walls, and 6 thuds slammed down, slow, heavy, shaking the floor. The door rattled hard, dust falling, and a crack split the wood, thin, spidering out. I grabbed the knife, shouting, "Stop it!" The hum laughed again, guttural, wet, and the shadow lunged, cold wrapping my wrist, solid as a hand. I slashed, hitting nothing, and it hissed, recoiling. The key slid out from the cushion, on its own, rolling toward the door. I dove, snatching it mid-slide, and the thud stopped. 3:01, the shadow snapped back, the crack and wood pulsing like a vein. I clutched the key, panting, the cold fading slow. The door was still, cracked, scratched, but shut. I checked it, flashlight shaking. The keyhole gaped wider, and through it a glint red like eyes, blinking out fast. My stomach dropped. 6 steps. It was through, almost. Morning came, gray and heavy. I went to Ruby's, slamming her door. She answered bleary, cigarette unlit. 6 thuds. I said, holding up the key. It cracked the door. "It's coming." She paled, grabbing my arm. 6? Fisk heard 6 the night he vanished. "That key, it's not locking anymore. It's opening." "What's it opening to?" I demanded. She shook her head. "Something bad. He messed with shit. Rituals, blood. Neighbors saw him carry books up. Heard screams. That door's not a closet, Sam. It's a gate." I stumbled back to 3B, key burning in my hand. The apartment hummed. Low, alive, the crack in the door wider, leaking that smell. I held the key up, trembling. Lock it, use it, toss it. The shuffle came again, close, right behind wood, and a whisper, "Sam," clear as a bell. I dropped the key, backing away. It hit the floor, spinning, pointing at the door. The key spun to a stop, pointing at the door like a compass needle. I stared at it, heart hammering, the whisper, "Sam," still echoing in my ears. The crack in wood pulsed, thin and jagged, leaking that sweet rot smell, thicker now, like a dead thing left to fester. The apartment creaked around me, louder, angrier, the floorboards groaning like they'd snap. I snatched the key, shoving it in my pocket and back to the couch. No way I'd touch that lock, not yet. Sleep was a lost cause. I sat there, lights on, knife in hand, the TV blaring static. Couldn't get a signal anymore. The air felt wrong, heavy, electric, like a storm brewing inside. Ruby's words clawed at me. It's a gate to what? Fisk's rituals, the blood, the screams. What had he let loose? The key burned against my leg. A cold weight I couldn't ignore. Morning dragged in, dull and gray. I checked the door. The crack was wider, splitting higher, the scratches deeper, curling into a spiral. I pressed my hand to it, warm, thrumming, and yanked back fast. The shuffle came again, louder, boots scuffing dirt, right behind the wood. My flashlight caught the keyhole, red glints flickering like eyes, watching me. I stumbled away, the sweet rot choking my throat. I went to Ruby's, pounding her door till my knuckles hurt. She opened it, eyes red, cigarette shaking. "What now?" she rasped. 6 steps, I said breathless. The door's cracking. It's pushing through. She grabbed my shirt, pulling me inside. Her place smelled like smoke and stale coffee, a lifeline from 3BS rot. "Show me the key," she demanded. I pulled it out, rusted and cold. She stared, then cursed. "That's it, Fisk's." He clutched like a lifeline, muttering about keeping it shut. "You're past that now. It's awake." "What's awake?" I snapped. "What's back there?" She sank into a chair, lighting her cigarette. "Dunno. Something old, mean." Fisk was into occult junk. Books with weird symbols, chants at night. Neighbors said he'd scream, then go quiet, like he was talking to it. That door, he built it, locked it, but it didn't stay locked. I gripped the key, dread pooling. "It's calling my name. 6 steps, it's close." She nodded, grim. Fisk heard 6. Next night, he was gone. "You've got hours, maybe." "Hours?" I laughed, sharp and shaky. "To do what?" "Run," she said. "Or fight it. Burn the key, the door, something. But it knows you now." I left her words await. Back in 3B, the apartment hummed. Low, alive. The cracks splitting further, paint peeling. I grabbed a hammer from my suitcase. Old, dented, and swung at the door. The wood dented, but held, the crack pulsing faster. The shuffle turned to thuds. 5, loud, shaking the walls. I stopped, hammer dropping as the hum leaked out. Sam. Slow and hungry. Night fell fast. I couldn't run, not yet. Sat up, key in one hand, knife in the other, waiting. 2:59 hit, the cold slamming in, my breath a fog. The clicks fired, frantic, breaking rhythm. Then the hum, my name a growl. The shadows surged long and black, clawing the ceiling, and 7 thuds hit. Slow, heavy, cracking the floor. The door split wider with groaning, and a hand, gray, bony, nails black, pushed through, clawing the air. I screamed, swinging the knife. It grazed a hand, cold, solid, and the shadow roared, a wet bellow shaking the room. The hand pulled back, the cracked ceiling halfway, but the thud stopped late. 3:02. The shadow lingered, red eyes glinting, then snapped away. The key in my hand burned, ice cold, biting my skin. I dropped it, gasping, the apartment still. 7 steps. It was here. The key lay on the floor, dark with something thicker than rust. My palm still burned where I'd held it, skin numb at the center, like it had taken something from me. 7 steps. It was here. I staggered back, knife shaking in my grip. The crack in the door pulsed, alive, stretching, breathing. The smell pouring out now, a sickly sweet decay that coated my throat. I clamped my sleeve over my mouth, gagging. The thing behind would pushed harder, the door groaning, splintering outward as a hand returned, gnarled and wrong, fingers too long, nails curling. It knows me. It wasn't just a voice in the dark anymore. It was in the walls, the air under my skin. The hum rose, deep and awful, shaking the light fixtures. The apartment door rattled in its frame. This place wasn't holding it back anymore. I thought about Ruby, her warning, the terror in her eyes. Burn the key, burn the door. Maybe it was a lie. Maybe it was too late. But it was the only move I had left. I lunged for my bag, fingers clawing past crumpled receipts and useless junk until they closed around the metal lighter cool and reassuring. My other hand snatched a bottle of cheap vodka from the counter. Half empty, but enough. A crack split the ceiling. I whirled. The walls weren't just humming anymore. They were bulging, warping, twisting inward like something enormous was pressing against them. The keyhole burned with red light, and the door frame bent as the thing behind it started pushing through. No time. I upended the bottle, sloshing vodka over the door, the floor, my hand shaking so hard I almost dropped it. The shadow behind the crack moved, shifting forward in a way that wasn't walking, disappearing closer, like time stuttered. I flicked the lighter. The flame caught, small and weak against the dark. I hesitated, just for a second. The hum turned into a voice. Sam. Not a whisper this time. Not a growl. It was me, my own voice, hollow and stretched, speaking from behind the door. The air locked in my lungs. The hand twitched. A shoulder pressed into the crack, gray and glistening. It was stepping through. I threw the lighter. The fire caught fast. Flames ran up the doorframe, flickering hungry tongues of orange and blue. The shadow recoiled, shrieking, a sound like metal grinding against bone. The apartment rocked as something massive slammed against the burning door. Furious, desperate, the thudding steps turned frantic, overlapping, too many legs moving at once. Smoke choked the room, thick and black. I stumbled back, eyes watering, the heat licking my face. Then, a final, ear-splitting crack. The door caved inward, but the fire had spread, engulfing the frame, the wall, everything. The thing behind it screamed, a howl so deep it vibrated my teeth. A shape surged forward, almost through. Arms, too many of them, writhing like shadows caught in the light. Before the ceiling split wide, fire racing up the walls, and was pulled back, shrieking into the dark. The last thing I saw before flames roared too high, before the floor buckled and heat swallowed the room, was the key, lie in the center of the blaze, metal glowing red hot, melting into the floor. And then, silence. I woke up in the street. Sirens screamed. Smoke billowed from the shattered windows of 3B, black against the dawn sky. A hand shook my shoulder. Paramedics, shouting something I didn't hear. My head lolled sideways. Across the street, Ruby stood barefoot on the pavement, staring at the wreckage, cigarette forgotten in her hand. I opened my mouth, but no words came, just the taste of ash. The building burned for hours. They said it started in my apartment. An accident. Faulty wiring, too much oil wood catching fast. Nobody mentioned a door that shouldn't have been there. Nobody found a key. The fire took everything. My things. The walls. The door. But I still hear it. At night, when everything's quiet. That hum. That voice. 7 steps. And waiting.